How important is the isolated queen's pawn, IQP, structure in the Rubinstein? Have you ever wondered how the isolated queen's pawn structure plays a role in the Rubinstein variation of the Nimzo-Indian Defense? Let's break it down. The isolated queen's pawn, or IQP, is a pawn on the D file that has no friendly pawns on the C or E files. This unique structure is a key element in many openings, especially in the Rubinstein variation. Now, the IQP is often seen as a weakness because it cannot be defended by other pawns. This means that players must dedicate pieces to protect it, which can limit their flexibility. The squares in front of the IQP, usually D4 or D5, become crucial battlegrounds. The player with the IQP needs to defend or control these squares without the support of pawns. This vulnerability can be exploited by the opponent through blockades and targeted attacks. On the flip side, the IQP also offers dynamic advantages, particularly in the middle game. The absence of adjacent pawns opens up lines for piece activity, especially for bishops and rooks. The player with the IQP often gains space and attacking chances, especially if they can establish outposts on squares like E5 or C5. These positions can be used to launch attacks against the opponent's king or overall position. In the context of the Rubinstein variation, these principles are particularly relevant. The IQP structure often arises after white plays D for and C4, with black responding in ways that encourage or accept the isolated pawn formation. White must capitalize on the dynamic potential of the IQP to maintain the initiative. It is essential to avoid premature exchanges that could reduce attacking possibilities. The player with the IQP should aim to use the central rupture created by the isolated pawn to open lines and activate their pieces. Meanwhile, the opponent will look to neutralize these threats and transition into an endgame where the isolated pawn becomes a liability. Handling the IQP in the Rubinstein requires careful strategy. White should avoid excessive piece exchanges to keep attacking chances alive. They must actively use the open files and outposts to generate pressure. On the other hand, black should work to blockade the IQP and exchange pieces to exploit its static weakness. Both sides need to be aware that the value of the IQP shifts as the game progresses. It can be an asset in the middle game but often turns into a weakness in the endgame. The IQP structure in the Rubinstein is a defining feature that shapes the strategic battle. It requires balancing defense and dynamic play, using the pawn's strengths before its weaknesses become decisive. Understanding these concepts is key to effectively navigating the Rubinstein variation and similar positions.